So, welcome everyone. Let's start the meeting. So, the agenda today is to talk briefly about the recent release we have made. Then we'll give you the idea about how to suggest improvements from the community to the project so that it is lightweight and formalized process. And then we'll have a question and answer session for everyone who is curious about Iroha, who has some problems building it, operating with it. And probably the next meeting that we're going to have next week would be about the future plan for Iroha, what will be the milestones and the releases. Right now, as a maintainer, we're discussing the milestone plan. So I guess the good timing for this to present to the community will be the next week. So Bogdan, why don't you start the meeting? It seems like he has some troubles connecting, so let me check that. Okay, anyway, while we're waiting for him to reconnect, I'll try to discuss you briefly the points from our recent release. Okay, now you can see the screen, right? Here in the Iroha GitHub page, you have the section named releases. We have recently made the release like 8 days ago. So the idea is that we have made a lot of improvements and also added some features to the system. So one of the improvements we have made is that now we can join the peer to the network. Like in Hotwire, you should not turn off a whole network to add new peer. You can just issue a command that is add peer. You need to press resolvable address of the peer in the network, and it's public key, and that's it. Now this peer should have the same Genesis block in the chain to start operating with the network. Also, one of the key features is that right now we're supporting macOS environment for the developers, so that it's convenient for them to test and to test the code that they have added. And also, now each pull request to develop branch is checked for the compatibility with Darwin. It means that we have a separate continuous integration environment for macOS. So now we're also supporting the transaction responses. What does it mean? Previously, how the client was able to understand whether the transaction was successfully finalized in the system or not. It was only like stateless validation response. Now it's like 7 states in total related to stateless and stateful validation, consensus, and external transport. So the idea is that for now you can use Iroha CLI. Just put the hash of the transaction into Iroha CLI, and the CLI should retrieve from Iroha peer current status of the transaction. So ordering gate in the system, it's the front end for the ordering service, which collects all the transactions in the system and makes the proposal from them to broadcast to the network. We have made an improvement so that ordering service is another pluggable component in the system, so that we're having like, I guess, 5 pluggable components at the moment. So Iroha is really modular and pluggable system. We're utilizing static analysis tool, which is SonarQube, and it's available on our website. And the technical depth of the project is checked with SonarQube. We're also building a custom quality gates for it, so that every merge or every pull request to the develop will be checked soon for the compliance with our quality metrics, such as coverage or the number of other metrics such as complexity and metrics. So I see something in the chat. So it seems like Bogdan has problems with his sound. I hope he will resolve them, as he's going to present you the changes in the process. Never mind. So we have improved a bit our initialization pipeline. It's not very informative though, but now it's more modular and the API was improved. Also, one of the core components in the system is now cryptographic checks. Previously, it wasn't active, and now the implementation is based on two libraries, which is ED 225.519 library, and also we're using at the moment SHA-2 hashing, and we're working on SHA-3 implementation for improved reliability, and also we're going to make it as modular as possible so that in future we can swap hashing function with something other. And also we want it to be available not only for Iroha, but for other projects which want to use ED 255.19 for their projects. So asset amount, it's how you can represent some quantity of assets in the system. Now is 4 times bigger. It's unsigned integer 256. And it also supports custom operations. Just check the class in the code base. What is really astonishing feature for the business blockchain is role-based access control system, which also supports grant command. Now we're using role-based control, and it helps us to create custom roles in the systems. Such roles in the system are limited to the operations which are available to them, and it's highly customizable. So you can set up the system in that way that you don't have any admin in the system. Everyone is responsible for their own part of managing something in the system. What is really cool is that some of the permissions can be granted to other users. You just check the API descriptions for more details. The API description is available on the hyperledger.github.io/Iroha API overview. Okay, now Bogdan has sound, and let me finish then. So here you have the description for the okay, so we used to have the description for permissions, but for some reason, it's not on the website. I need to check that once again. So maybe someone made a mistake while merging the documentation. Never mind, this website contains a lot of documentation about the current API. So you can check this out and take a look how to form the transaction in protobuf or JSON, for example, or make a query to the system. So just explore this website. I will post it after the meeting. Also available on the GitHub wiki page. Okay, so now we're also having integration tests for transaction pipeline. It's really helpful for us to check some features that are affecting the whole pipeline for transactions. And this test is going to be reused a lot for testing when we will finish with the shared library for creation of transactions and queries, which would be shared object library in C++, available hopefully on 11th of December. We're also using Redis to index the block store for fast retrieval of transactions. However, we also have some suggestions for improvement regarding our block storage, and maybe we'll swap this implementation in the nearest future. But for now, Redis is helpful so that we won't spend a lot of time scanning the whole block store. We also improved a bit our consensus implementation, and now we can provision the system, deploy the system via Ansible playbook. And this feature will help us to write scripts for effective system and performance tests, which will be also benchmarking. So this is like the initiation of our work with benchmarks and maybe fuzzing, like low system tests that will run over a long time just to check if the system is having liveness feature. and also other improvements. So we have fixed build for ARM version 7, so that we can have potential for IoT applications or supply chain, and several improvements in the Iroha CLI. But hopefully we will rewrite the Iroha CLI as soon as we will finish the shared objects library. Check this out, check the documentation once again. And I think that we'll review it right after the meeting, because I have seen some of the inconsistencies, like the permission model was previously, but for now it's not. And also we have binaries for the target platforms such as Mac, both daemon and the CLI, and for Linux as well, and also the source code. So everything's very, very trivial. That's it for the release. And I think that we will continue with the description on how to utilize issues in GitHub in order to suggest some improvements for the product. Bogdan, can you continue?
Yes. Let me share the screen. So we are now facing the problem. How can we organize a repository and the process of gathering, structuring, and tracking the progress of proposals for improvement, different bugs and different issues? Now we don't have very good structure, and just using plain issues on GitHub, it doesn't work. So I came up with this solution. We use GitHub issues as a central source of proposals, feature requests, bugs, and so on. But we use some tooling. We use labeling. We use for communication with Steam. We use Gitter, Rocky Chat, or Telegram. So I developed the label system to structurize the project. To maintain labels, we will use Git issue bot. This bot is it will help us to maintain assignees for issues and different labels. So I propose, so this bot will select one assignee among like the pool of maintainers for every single issue. So we can, so this assignee will be responsible from the start of this issue to the end. So we make categories for issues. We will have 5 categories. One is improvement. I will explain later what is this. Improvement, feature, question, bug, and inactive. Improvement will have this label. Improvement is any improvement of existing code. So this might be renamed as refactoring. So if you improve any algorithm, any implementation, anything inside Iroha. So as example is like changing platform-specific system calls to cross-platform calls, for example, to boost. This might be under improvement tag. So features are brand new functionality. For example, is addition of new comments. Question is something like maybe newcomers want to ask something, but they don't have like the link to the chat, or I don't know. This is any repetitive question that can be addressed. It can be here. It can be marked with question. Also bugs. This is obvious. Inactive will be marked issues that are maybe months old, and there is no progress at all, and that's all. So we will have subcategories. One subcategory is priority, and another is status. Priority, so we will have 5 priorities and different statuses: active, resolved, one fixed, pending. In the system, bot will maintain 2 roles. So assignee is the one who follows the issue, who provides full support on this issue, including updating the labels, discussion, and everything else. Submitter is the one who submitted the issue. It can be developer. In this case, assignee will be supervising this submitter until issue is closed. And it can be just in case of bug or maybe questions, it can be extraordinary people. So issue submitter workflow will be the following. It's not like the workflow. It's more like requirements to open the issue. The title should be accurately describe the content of the issue. All issues should be described in English. Sorry, someone did not disable the mic. Disable. I hear something. Sorry. All issues will be only in English. The content of issue should have at least 2 sections: is motivation and description. It's for all issues, for bugs, for improvements, for features, for everything. And one requirement is like to be active after posting. For assignees, assignee is the one who is assigned to be responsible on supporting the issue. For assignee, the requirement is to check if it is well formed, as I mentioned before, with rules, as I mentioned before, to update this, the status. So assignee will be responsible to change priorities and labels and everything else. And depending on the category, if it is bug, assignee should confirm or reject it. So this will help us to like not have one single person who does all the job. So this can split the work among all contributors and all maintainers. If this question, then answer. If this improvement or feature, this is interesting thing. So assignee should define the scope of changes. If the scope of changes is small, then this change becomes a task. Example is, for example, change the, or maybe change the rules to validate domain name. For example, it's like very small change. So this becomes task. If scope is big, then this becomes GitHub milestone or epic. What does it mean? It means that, for example, you want to suggest, I don't know, change block structure, for example. And this change is very big. So actually, it will be like this change has to be, this task has to be split into many small subtasks and then proceeded. And in this case, we create GitHub milestone and assign all sub-issues to this milestone. So depending on the scope or difficulty or size, your assignees can be added to the issue. And I think we need to use something like, sorry, I mentioned this, I mentioned it here. We have to use something like hub maybe to keep track of all tasks and work. Now we use Jira, but I just installed this Zen Hub, and it's like a board, Jira board, but for GitHub, so you can use it. And I think you should use it. And that's all. Thank you.
Okay, so maybe we can discuss some of the suggestions you're making. Does anyone have any questions regarding the proposal?
In the chat, Dave wrote a few things.
Yeah, Dave wrote that it would be really good for us to consider having a tag for good first features, like good first bug or good first issue. So we should consider that and continue that. I think we already have like 4 of them, but it's not enough. As I have been going through the backlog in the Jira, I found a lot of tasks that are really suitable for newcomers, especially the technical depth one, such as like improvements of old features. And we have an extensive explanation for these tasks. So maybe I can cooperate with Bogdan and add more to this list in Hub.
That would be really great. So yeah, it's important. Like we're going to make a big push in 2018 to try to lower the bar to entry, or the barrier to entry for new contributors on all of the projects at Hyperledger. So, I mean, you don't need to go finding new bugs, but as new bugs come in, if you think it's an easy one, like a documentation fix or a test case that needs to be updated or something like that, it'd be really great to tag it as a good first bug and then comment in there if you're willing to mentor somebody. That's the other piece. Because if a new developer comes in and wants to help and they go through the the good first bug list, if there's a comment in there that says, hey, if you have questions, email me, right? So that they can get in contact with somebody who has experience with the code base. We found that drastically improves the uptake of new developers, because they come in, the community seems friendly, they immediately get connected with somebody who knows what's going on, and we can grow your community a lot faster, I think. Then the other question I had for you guys is, have you used the DCO feature in GitHub yet? The Developer Certificate of Origin? That's also a requirement for Hyperledger. All commits to your code base have to have a DCO
Let me
declaration.
clean this up. You mean for DCO, it's like signing all the commits, or like signing DCO first? There was like
it's
this before.
Signed off by, I think, or not signed off by, but there's a meta tag you put into the commit with Git. It's like a -s when you commit, and it'll do it's signed off by, and then all of the developers that do the signed off by have to have signed the DCO agreement thing. There's a bot that you can plug into your GitHub repo.
So Dave, can you check this out? So this developer certificate of origin, is this still actual for us? Are we using it?
Yes. So if you're using that, then that's acceptable.
So we're actually using right now both. We're asking everyone to sign up this CLA agreement and also DCO for each commit.
Perfect.
Okay.
I'm happy.
But do we have to do both?
It seems to me like that's too much. Yeah.
Well, you sign it initially. You sign the GitHub DCO, right? That becomes associated with your account. And then whenever you do a commit, if you do the signed off by, that links the commit back to you and to your DCO agreement. So that the lawyers say that that's enough.
So just let me introduce Dave. Dave is a security maven in Hyperledger projects, and we're really happy to have him on our Iroha development meeting right now. So, by the way, our community is very diverse. If you have any questions in language like Japanese or Russian, we're happy to answer you and also translate the question.
I think we are good.
So I guess we can gradually move to a question and answer session for the contributors that we have or newcomers to the community. So guys, which kind of questions or problems did you have while exploring Iroha or while trying to build something? Are there any concerns? It seems like, well, I hope that our product is perfect, and that's the reason why no one has any questions, but it might be the case that no one is like exploring Iroha also. So my suggestion is to start to try with good first issues that we have at the moment, and also to explore Hyperledger Iroha API docs that we are having for you. They are describing how to start the system, how to issue new commands and queries. Just explore that and play around. And if you have any problems, you can ask your question in every channel, like Telegram, Gitter, Rocket Chat, mailing list, where we're trying to monitor all of them at the moment. So maybe we have something at the moment in GitHub issues to discuss. I'm not sure. So no one has any questions, right? Okay, here you go. What's the issue? What's the question?
Hey, on the smart contracts, are we looking into some direction, or it's still in works?
Yeah, so we're having two directions regarding smart contracts. Right now, we're doing two activities. So the first one is we're trying to build our definition for the language and the virtual machine and set of operations that we're going to support in the smart contracts. And that's one direction. Another direction is the integration with an existing system that is really promising. And so far, I can tell you only that. We're exploring both. And I cannot say, oh, someone, okay. We're exploring both options at the moment. And I hope that in future, we will have like an ETA for like a prototype of smart contracts in Iroha. So that's only initiation of the work though. We don't have any like results of both directions. But of course, in future, our version 1.0 will be with smart contracts. That's the point why we're calling the current version to be 0.995. The remaining part of the system to be called 1.0 is to have smart contracts feature in it. In order to include application layer inside the blockchain platform, not outside with some kind of middleware.
Okay, good to know. Thanks.
You're welcome. So Takeda-san, what's your question? Okay, was that in English or in Japanese? Let me check that. Makoto-san, can you help with this question?
let me review.
Sasagawa-san previously asked it. I've seen some interaction in Japanese though, but I'm not as good at the moment to translate that. It seems like Mizuki have answered something. So can someone translate that and tell me what's the content of the question? What is the status? I'm still learning Japanese, but I'm not so good at it. So I found the question. I can actually share the screen or
Yeah, the
forward it to
problem
others.
is just so you you start up Iroha and you run it with the Genesis block, and then it starts up okay, and then when you try to do a transfer transaction, then it stops in the proposal stage and never commits. So when you restart the system, it has trouble. And Mizuki answered, maybe there's some problem with Redis, and you have to delete some container maybe.
Okay, how should we handle such type of bugs if they're asked in Japanese? I guess we should have someone who is separate.
We should put issues. So Mizuki would have been helpful to create an issue on GitHub, but or
Yeah, I think that we should have someone who is assigned to that because some of our community members are mostly proficient in Japanese language, and for them it's easier to use it. And we need someone to translate the issue, to explain the situation in English, as the primary language is English for the intercommunication inside the community. So why don't we assign someone like Mizuki to help us and put this as a part of our process? And maybe someone who is like who is both proficient and fluent, I mean, in Russian and in English, can do the same for the Russian community. It would be really great to have such people, not only into languages like Japanese and Russian, but maybe in Portuguese as well, maybe. Okay, so are there any other questions?
Hey, is there a possibility that we are looking at where we can hook up our own smart contract or a way we can include our own smart contract into the existing path of Iroha, where we can leverage something like JVM or on a similar lines. I'm saying, where we can have our own C++ serializing engine, which will be doing the smart contracting job. So, is there a possibility? And if that is a possibility, then are there any pointers that can help us evolve that locally here?
What's the JVM, by the way?
JVM, Java Virtual.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's what we're doing. Is we're working on a smart contract engine for 1.0, and that will allow you to write your own code. We're not going to use JVM for many reasons. We're looking at two.
Of course, I completely. Yeah.
Yeah, one solution is. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Please go ahead. Sorry.
So our first solution that we're studying right now is building our own language and making our own VM. One other solution is to integrate with another platform that a company that we're working with has made. We're still doing prototype of both, and we'll decide in the next month or so, like what direction we'll go to. But yeah, for 1.0, you'll be able to write your own code. But this is still research phase. It's really important to get it right because different projects, like for example, Ethereum has had a lot of trouble with finding or building tools to properly engineer smart contracts. So there's been lots of bad I don't know, security errors or security holes. So we want to be able to create something that's harder to make mistakes with.
Are we looking at LLVM of any sort of any way that we can have our own LLVM plugged in? Hello?
I think Bogdan knows that answer.
I'm trying to understand whether we are looking at low-level virtual machine kind of a JIT or a just-in-time compiler which will help us to wrap up our own serializing engine in the smart contract executor probably. Are we looking at that?
Sorry, I didn't hear your first question.
So,
could you repeat?
You understand low-level virtual machine, right? Which usually low-level virtual machines are used for for platforms like FPGAs to execute the serialized bytecode that it generates usually, and it stores on its physical memory area. So low-level virtual machines usually they are very small-level executors, which deserializes the bytecodes, and they interpret the bytecodes and take necessary action. So you can build on top of a low-level virtual machine your own kind of a JV kind of a execution engine which will spawn by itself. But it usually happens on an FPGA kind of a platform. It doesn't work on a regular processor. So I'm trying to understand if we are looking at such if we are also looking at such execution paths where we can have the smart contracts run on a very secured hardware altogether, right? So on the security perspective, where the bytecode can be interpreted, here the bytecode won't be interpreted because it goes on a separate hardware altogether for execution. Just a thought.
We do not consider actually implementing virtual machine using any FPGAs or something. Of course, it is only software built. At start.
Yeah.
No one knows how it goes.
Okay.
So essentially, yes, as you described it, it is just low-level virtual machine which executes, like interprets the bytecode. Exactly. Yes.
What's the use case where you would want to implement that in?
But then, I'm sorry.
What's the use case to implement this in hardware?
So the point is, now on a mobile phone, with Intel launching platforms where you can have your own AI engine inside a mobile phone. Now Apple has already launched the AI engine running inside an iPhone X, right? So similarly, we are looking at similar AI platforms coming up in the future and getting commoditized. So these AI platforms basically they are neural engines which runs on an FPGA kind of a neural hardware. So the point is, if a smart contract has been pitched in these hardware, the execution would be quite secured, and the point where we want to keep the smart contract access focused to the uh, to the action that it should be taken, or data that it is supposed to access. That part can be really implemented in a very secure manner, basically, if we put it on such
Yes, but with a low-level virtual machine, you also can do the same. So you get the same level of security. We consider security for smart contracts. The first is like security for peers. So clients are able to send arbitrary data, arbitrary smart contracts, arbitrary bytecode. So peers should be secured. Virtual machine is actually a sandbox. So it doesn't add any additional level of security when you execute it in hardware. Maybe. I don't know.
Okay, so how about the other questions? Or we can gradually move on to the proposals for the next meeting. What kind of features or what kind of topics you would like to see on the next meeting? Maybe how to launch the system, how to execute transactions, some of the basic stuff, or maybe I don't know, some architectural parts. If you have any proposals, I will be really happy to hear from you. So currently the idea is that our next meeting will start with the explanation for the maybe roadmap or for the next release only. We will decide on that. If you have some proposals, just post them in the chat. Our next meeting will be probably also on Tuesday, on Thursday. And in prior, we will collect the proposals from you, like what kind of things to talk about, which kind of features you'd like to explore more, maybe Ansible provisioning, how to launch the network of Iroha nodes. So I guess that's it. Do you have something to add, Bogdan?
Yes, I mentioned that we will add this labeling system and bot. It's not currently in the repository. We'll add this in the nearest future.
Yeah, maybe next week we will finish it, and we will also explain the workflow, the pipeline for the process for the suggestions from the community in a separate document in GitHub. So now we have a draft of this document. Let me share my screen for a moment. Information is given to the community, how to make suggestions for improvements. And this section, I guess, will be expanded, or maybe this will be a separate document from Bogdan, which describes what kind of stages for improvements, what kind of GitHub issues it could be. So, yeah. If that's it, maybe Makoto-san has some proposals or something to say at the end of the meeting.
No, I'm okay. Thanks everyone for joining. So we want to do this meeting weekly from now on. So please join when you can. The time will be different every week, but we'll try to at least record the videos and put the videos online. So I'll see you in the future. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks everyone. See you next week. And also we can conduct some meetings on demand if you'd like, if that's needed. So Thanks, and have a nice day. Goodbye.